all could mute your mics and follow the lead of our amazing youth panel here as far as the engagement when you want to jump in. This one, because this is a classic Zoom meeting room, you guys can use the chat here. Unlike, or you can use the one in Whova as well. We'll be tracking both, but feel free to use the chat here as well. And just as a rule of thumb as well, if anybody misbehaves, I have the power to make you go poof and not have you back in. So this is a live, please be respectful of everyone. You might not agree with everything, but we're all in this together, okay? It's just a classic Zoom. Hopefully we won't get any bombers and we'll send them on their way. It might be kind of fun to make them go poof. Anyway, over to you guys. Danielle, Lily, Charlie, and I'll let Cece explain her situation. Over to you. Oh, you have to unmute Danielle if you're trying to talk. There you go.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to our session today. My name is Danielle. I'm a member of the Youth Council along with these other members here. And I am also a communication and marketing intern for LiveMore ScreenLess.
And then, hi everyone, again, I am also a Youth Council member at LiveMore, and this past summer I was a marketing intern, and we're super excited to share with you guys what we have tonight, and thank you all for being here.
Hi everyone, I'm Charlie Golisich. I'm currently a sophomore in college, and I'm also a member of the LiveMore Youth Council.
Hello everyone, I'm Cece Hawley. Unfortunately, I have lost my voice because there's a very bad cold going around my campus right now. But I'm a LiveMore Youth Council member and the Youth Council president, and we're really excited to talk about our peer-to-peer education program with you guys and explain how the legislation process went. But thank you so much for all being here. I'm going to most likely be using the chat function, but thank you so much, and I'll toss it over to Danny.
Charlie, did you want to introduce the role of Youth Council?
Yes. So just to tell you all a little bit more about LiveMore and the Youth Council and what we do, LiveMore is a Minnesota-based nonprofit focusing on digital well-being, which is the intentional use and balance of screen times with other aspects of well-being, such as the physical dimension or the cognitive dimension, just to give a few examples. And the specific role of the Youth Council in the context of this legislation was to pilot the peer-to-peer training program. There were about 5 of us this spring who each took one different dimension of well-being and helped put together a lesson plan for this specific dimension to create and then test interactive activities based on each dimension for people to complete in order to get their digital well-being certification. And this portable model for education is now going to be seen in high schools all across the all across the state, excuse me, in which students at high schools, once they get certified as digital well-being advocates, can then become teachers of the digital well-being model and use these lesson plans to teach their own peers how to be more responsible with their screen use.
Hopefully we can get it across the country. Charlie, thank you. Thank you for that. So just some of the thinking. Yes. So just some of the opportunities that we as Youth Council members have been able to do so far. For example, we've had LiveMore May challenges that Cece and I have both conducted in the past. And basically what those are each year in the month of May, we kind of do an Instagram takeover and we post challenges for people to do weekly and daily based on a specific dimension. So the 5 dimensions of well-being are emotional, social, cognitive, I'm blanking, emotional, social, cognitive, physical, and mental, thank you. And so we do challenges, challenging people, and then they challenge their friends. And it's kind of just a little game. You get a prize at the end. So those are some of the things we've been able to do, as well as compile videos for Youth Council member testimonies. And Lily and I, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but Lily and I have been able to conduct the peer-to-peer training and kind of rebrand that. And we've had opportunities to go to different schools and talk to students about our peer-to-peer training. So being a youth council member, there's a place for you in this group in any way, any opportunities that you'd like to do that we have. So.
Sorry, I was having a computer snafu for a second, but now I can take this time to introduce the Digital Wellbeing Bill, which is now a law, by the way, in Minnesota. And the primary goal of this bill/law is twofold. It's to raise awareness through education and inspiration on the issues and threats to digital well-being, as well as providing resources to help combat threats to digital well-being. So first goal of the law is to create a digital well-being resource hub. And this resource hub is meant to be easily accessible online to anyone who wants to gain access to resources that can teach them how to be more responsible digitally. Secondly, the stipend gotten from the law is meant to launch a statewide communications campaign, which is meant to be a culturally responsive, equitable, and targeted communications campaign promoting digital well-being, leveraging LiveMore's extensive network of organizations in order to reach a vast and varied audience, inside and outside of schools. The third goal is to train the trainer professional development. In other words, this is meant to inspire educators across the country to become fluent in terms of digital well-being and ways that they can effectively teach the children in their classrooms to practice digital well-being. Finally, as we already mentioned, the fourth and most important goal of the Digital Wellbeing Law is to create funding to launch the peer-to-peer training model, in which high school students themselves are trained in all 5 aspects of well-being and how to balance these aspects of well-being with intentional use of screens. Once these young people become digitally well-being certified, they are then meant to take these portable models for education that we are creating and teach them to their peers, encouraging them to get certified and ultimately creating a new culture all across the state in which young people feel very safe in digital environments and feel as if they can balance their health personally.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, we are so excited that this bill was passed. And just Cece and I, and along with other youth council members, we had the opportunity to testify in front of the Minnesota Senate Board of Education Committee for this digital wellbeing bill. And it was just a great opportunity to share my experience with technology. And basically what I said in my testimony was that, you know, majority of my childhood, I did not grow up with a phone. When I think of my childhood, I don't think of being on my phone or watching TV a lot. I was mainly outside, but then that was up until a certain age. And then I probably asked for a phone, or maybe I was just given a phone for safety purposes. But regardless, I received one because that was we grew up in this generation where technology is advancing, and that was our society at the time. And so everybody had a phone. And the thing is that we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. Nobody did. So there's blame in the initial part of it. But now that we know how these screens are affecting us, we can hold people accountable for the way that it's being put out and implemented into social media and in our lives as a whole. So now that we know about this information, we need to implement it and make people aware of the negative effects of the misuse of screens, and try to help people be intentional with technology and their daily lifestyles.
So now I'm going to touch on a little bit more on our peer-to-peer program and our digital well-being certification. So LiveMore ScreenLess is rooted in data and research, and we obviously are receiving an overwhelming amount of data that technology is affecting us in a negative way. And we are trying to put all this in like a more tangible format. So we came up with the digital well-being certification, which we've been working on for the past 10 months. And to start off, we really wanted to focus on like the group of individuals that it's heavily affecting the most that we are aware of, which is, teens, young adults. And we wanted to focus on, like Charlie mentioned before, the 5 dimensions of our health and well-being, which is physical, social, emotional, cognitive, and I'm forgetting one of those.
Mental.
That's what I forgot. I told you. So we really started with a clean slate at the drawing board and put all of our minds together and focused on different activities, different discussions, shared personal anecdotes that could really correlate to each of these dimensions and also engage a person of our age to feel like understood and give them the resource to feel supported and confident in making decisions around technology. So it's been a long time coming, and we've seen a lot of revision over the past couple of months, and we're also all able to engage with our material and ultimately, just like I said before, give high school students, middle school students, at this point we're focusing a lot on high schools and integrating this into curriculum, giving them those resources to make those intentional and healthy decisions. And Danny and I got to work really closely on really creating the content graphically for this whole certification. So we have spent a lot of time using a platform called Canva to make it aesthetically pleasing and engaging, fresh, clean, something that kind of sparks the eye too, and you kind of want to look more into. And we're still revising that today, but we hope to have this integrated in a lot of school districts in Minnesota and then hopefully nationwide. And Danny, I don't know if you want to add anything else onto that, but.
Yeah, it's very long. Like, it took us a long time to get to this point, and it's so rewarding to be at this spot where, you know, we worked so hard for something that was just a vision at some point, and then we testified and got a bill and the funding to actually implement this. And so it's really rewarding. And we haven't obviously implemented it in schools yet. We're still in the process of that. But I, along with KK and Marie, a few weeks ago, we actually got an opportunity to speak at Hopkins Junior High in Minnesota. And we talked to 9th graders about digital well-being, intentional screen usage. And we had a presentation, we had great discussions. And one thing that I took away from that, we had 2 days and I was there for the last day. We had 3 different sessions, 3 different groups. And one thing that I took away from that was that these students, these young people really want to talk about this. And I think a lot of older adults will look at young people and say, they're just addicted to their phones. They're just unproductive and all of these things. But a lot of the students that I talked to, and I'm a sophomore in college, but these are 9th graders, and I had a lot of things to relate to them. But a lot of them also told me that I don't use social media. I don't have Snapchat. I don't have Instagram. And you wouldn't even know that. And I was surprised as a 19-year-old. I was like, oh, really? Because I have all those. I assumed you did too. It's like, no, we do want this change. And so we need these platforms for young people to actually have a voice here and tell you that, hey, this is something that I don't actually want in my life. As an adult, how are you going to help me to, get better at being in a society where technology is so advanced, and, you may not want that in your life every day. And so I think it's just really important that we have this training, that we can implement it in schools, because a lot of people just don't know. And that is the main thing. We just want people to be aware. And then we can, because this is not going away. It's only going to get more advanced. And so we just have to learn how to tolerate and cope with it. Lily, did you want to touch on our internships?
Yes. And before moving on to that, I just want to touch back on this certification is peer-to-peer. And if you aren't knowledgeable about that model, it's essentially you're teaching another peer this information. And we think through this model, it's the most effective because you're putting yourself in someone's shoes that you can relate to. And it's sometimes hard to hear information from like someone that's older, a little bit beyond your years, and like how like you understand, but only to this extent. So really focusing on all of us youth council members on creating the content for the certification was like finding those points of like, wow, that's so relatable to me. This is probably what someone else is feeling. or this could be a great discussion to uncover this, like maybe someone is struggling with that same thing. So we think having that model is making this going to be the most effective, and hopefully it's responded that same way.
Right, because who better to teach about this issue than the people who are actually going through it? So
right, yes. So now we're gonna move. We're gonna see a little glimpse of some of the content that we made a little bit later tonight, so you guys can see some of the content for yourself. And then Danny and I are just going to kind of touch on our internships for the past summer. So like I said before, I was a marketing intern this summer for LiveMore, and I was able to work alongside our board marketing committee, which consisted of some marketing professionals, as well as alongside our partners, Fresh Coast, who help real clients with graphic design needs, videography needs, website development, website strategy. So I learned an immense amount from both of those groups of people. And I focused a lot on our website development and redesign and how to integrate youth voice into all of our content. And then again, the Digital Wellbeing certification was a lot of what I worked on this past summer.
Yeah, I would say for me, it was mainly the peer-to-peer training that I worked on this summer, a little bit of the website design as well, suggestions in that area. And yeah, Lily, you said it all. It's just a great opportunity to have this internship, and it really gives me that network with, it doesn't, it gives me the network with people and making deeper connections, but it also is acknowledging or making me more informed about digital well-being. So these are all things that we came in here not knowing. And so we're working at this pace that a lot of other people are as well, because we're realizing things that we didn't know about ourselves while we're doing this. And so now now that we have this information, we just want to share with everybody else, because just a year ago, we were at the same place that some other youth and students weren't. So yeah, having this internship is a really great opportunity. I think, Cece, are we ready to start with the presentation? Yeah, if you wanted to share your screen.
All right, I am going to officially take over as Cece's voice for the time being. So hello, everyone, and welcome to our shortened module for the peer-to-peer model of digital wellbeing training. This is the section that I piloted back when we did the practice training last spring, the dimension of physical wellbeing as it relates to screens. And the main aspects of physical well-being that we want to think about are not only what you might typically think of in terms of going outside and getting exercise instead of lying in bed on your phone, but also how screens can literally affect your physical health, such as causing eye strain or headaches or causing you to miss meals. It's important to think of all these things as physical in thinking of physical well-being as a holistic approach to your entire body and how you can take care of it thoroughly throughout the day. So that's...
Sorry, Charlie.
It is all yours.
Okay. So the goal of our session today, we want to build awareness around the physical cost of screen misuse and overuse in order to adopt healthy practices that enhance our overall well-being. And we really want to put an emphasis on the fact that each one of these dimensions come together as one to help with our overall well-being. So not just, it's not just one dimension that's going to get you there, but we really want to focus on all of them. Today, we're going to focus on the physical because we have some fun activities for you to participate in. So we hope that by the end of this presentation, our goal is succeeded.
So we're first going to try some icebreakers before we dive into our content. So we have 3 icebreakers right here. I'll just read them off. First one is, what is one thing that you look forward to in your everyday life? is your phone cracked or well protected? And if you were to take a trip without your phone, where would you go? So I can go ahead and start. I'm gonna answer two of them actually, but I'm gonna go for the first one. One thing that I really look forward to is unwinding at night and taking some like alone time. I love candles and like lighting a candle in my room, getting ready for bed, just taking time for yourself and just kind of relax and hang out. And the second question is your phone cracked or well protected? I'm gonna knock on wood right now. My phone isn't cracked right now, but it's usually always cracked. And that's like not a great thing. It's really expensive to own an iPhone. I'm very fortunate to have one, and it seems to always be cracked. So I should probably look into some different cases for that one.
I'm the opposite, Lily. I usually never have my phone cracked, and here it is cracked. I'm not sure how this happened, but I feel like it dropped. It just fell face down and then just shattered. So I'm getting a new phone soon. Also very grateful to have the opportunity to have a phone. But yes, I would say usually my phone is well protected.
I'll go ahead and answer this third question then, since we haven't touched on it yet. Earlier this month, I went on a canoe trip nearby. I just floated down a river for a few hours, and I'd honestly want to do the same exact thing because that is the first time in recent memory where I didn't use my phone all day. I was just so engrossed in the foliage, the floating down the river, the paddling of the canoe. So I'd love to just repeat that experience because I did not miss my phone at all. Sorry. Are we?
Well, we have in the chat, we have a couple responses. Julie looks forward to her coffee every day. Julie, I'm sure everyone can relate to you on that one. I honestly, I'm not a huge coffee person because it makes my stomach hurt, but everyone drinks coffee. So yes, very relatable there.
I find the dog part even more universal. Hanging out with your dog, taking your dog for a walk, potentially. Great way to take care of your physical well-being. And your dog's physical well-being too.
Perfect. I think, Cece, you can go to the next slide.
Great. So now we're going to get started with our first activity to get us thinking about how we take care of our physical well-being might have changed over the years, especially as we become more acclimated to the digital world. So for this activity, we're going to take about 2 minutes to ourselves to list out 3 childhood activities that we liked and 3 activities that we enjoy now. So when you think about your top 3 activities, the top 3 ways that you spent your time in each of these different periods of your life, what would you say they were? We'll give everyone 2 seconds to write them down, and then we'd love to see some answers in the chat or to have people unmute and share their answers. And then once a few people have shared, we'll enter a discussion about what these changes might signal.
Charlie, do you want to tell folks who are just joining what we're doing, so then
yes, of course.
A moment of silence.
Yep. So just to briefly re-explain the activity, this is the first icebreaker activity in the physical well-being module of our peer-to-peer training. And what we're doing this exercise is taking 2 minutes to list our 3 favorite activities as a child and our 3 favorite activities now. And then we're going to share these different activities and then evaluate how they might have changed because of our introduction to the digital world.
I'm going to go ahead and answer so I can give some people ideas if they need and some time to put in the chat. So my 3 activities as a child, I would say having lemonade stands with my best friend who was my neighbor, which was perfect because we just like went outside and we were there. And then I had this pink Barbie Jeep. I was riding that around the neighborhood. I think I was out there all day. And then probably playing the piano. Yeah, I've been playing the piano since I was 4 years old. So those are the 3 activities as a child. And then now I would say playing the piano was still definitely one. I'm still very involved in music. And then playing volleyball. And then I would say theater as well, because I love theater. So honestly, I loved all those things as a kid too. So it hasn't changed that much, but none of them involve a phone yet. So we'll see, or technology.
Let me just check the Whova chat to make sure nobody's over there doing it there. Nope, we're being good. Everybody's in Zoom. That's good.
A lot of these activities that I'm seeing here in the chat, none of them involve a device. And that is actually the main reason why we wanted you to do this activity, is because wanted you to see that, I mean, obviously things have evolved and so technology wasn't as advanced then, but also to see, compare it to today and how a lot of the activities we do today and that we surround ourselves with do have to do with technology. And when, you know, we were younger, we were outside and more active and kind of have moved away from that just because our society is changing at a very fast rate.
So the next activity that we are going to dive into is a top 5 list. So we're going to kind of reflect on a few ways that you prioritize in order to take care of yourself. So I think just a couple from me is sleep is a huge thing. I know that if I don't get a good night of sleep, my day is not going to be as productive as I would hope it to be. I'm usually a little bit flustered, a little bit easier, and not always in the best mood. So I try and get good sleep each night. I try to be around friends and people that make me feel supported and happy. And I try and eat pretty well throughout the week and to feel my body, make me feel good. And just some self-care. I take my nighttime routine and my skin routine pretty seriously. So good hygiene, you know, that's hopefully we all prioritize that. But I guess just reflecting on some obstacles that get in the way, it's super easy to just blame time. Say like you wanted to wake up a couple hours early and get something done, and you just wanted to sleep more, you didn't have the time. And I think one of these 5 ways that get in the, like, I tend to not follow through the most is with sleep. And I found myself, you know, unwinding at the end of a busy day, and you kind of just want to be mindless, not think about much. And I go on my phone and it's just like a whole rabbit hole, and I am on it for way too long, and it can just be late and I'm like, what am I still doing on my phone? There's no reason for this. Like, and I don't sleep as well on those nights. And as an example, I don't know if anyone in here has a TikTok account. I know my peers right here, we all have one, but it's super easy to spend an immense amount of time on that app. It just keeps feeding you what you want to see. And I'll be seeing like food video after food video at night. And then I'm thinking about food, and then I should like be in my REM sleep. Like it's a bad habit. So I definitely think my device gets in a huge way of me and my sleep schedule. I don't know if that is relatable to anyone else, but I would open the floor if anyone wants to share one of the 5 ways you take care of yourself, and maybe something that's getting in the way, either through the chat or if you just want to unmute yourself, that would be awesome.
Well, I'd love to speak on sleep a little bit more, because this appears in just about every dimension of well-being, I think, except for maybe social. So speaking of what Lily was talking about, being on your phone right before bed, there is scientific evidence that this does disrupt your sleep. The blue light causes shifts in your melatonin production that make it harder for you to fall asleep, regardless of whether you feel this or not, and it leads to a less restful sleep as well. But the problem is people will often be on their phones before bed in something called revenge bedtime procrastination, in which, because high school kids especially feel sort of powerless in their everyday lives with how much work they have to do for school, for example, and how full their schedule is in general, they feel like their only time to unwind is at the very end of the day once they're already in bed. And the easiest way to do this unwinding is to do something like be on TikTok, which is a very passive activity where all you need to be doing is swiping your thumb, and you're fed with this endless stream of content that is tailored to you and that is meant to grab your attention, and therefore excites your neurons and gets you thinking when you should instead be winding down and getting ready to sleep. So all this leads to a less restful sleep, which obviously affects your physical health.
So from the chat, I'm seeing a lot of people putting in sleep, reading, spending quality time with friends and family, listening. And self-care looks different for everyone. So I love reading all these different comments, but it seems like overall, it's really hard to escape our phones. And especially when we're tired and drained and don't have much energy, it's super easy for our device to kind of capture that last ounce of energy, even when we don't necessarily want to give our energy to that. So from my experience, I think, you know, setting boundaries for how long you can spend and being realistic about it is a way to overcome these obstacles. I've, over the past couple of months and since I've gone through the Digital Wellbeing certification, I try not to be on my phone like more than 1 hour before, like I'm sitting in bed, I don't let myself, and 1 hour is still like a decent amount of time. But from before, it's like super easy to just sit on there. So that's kind of one goal I set for myself. So be thinking about maybe one thing that you would like to switch in your daily routine to kind of overcome the obstacles that you guys are noting.
All right, Cece, I think you can hit the next slide, please. Sorry if you hear my dog. That's unfortunate. So what our peers are saying, so LiveMore, and we conducted surveys among students in their physical state during COVID-19, and here are some of the results. So 46% of people reported feeling sleepy, tired, fatigued, exhausted. 34% reported headaches and strained dry eyes or blurry vision, and 32% reported feeling uncomfortable from sitting. So I'll share a little story really quick, but as I do, think about this question: what physical effects have you experienced when you have spent long amounts of time on a screen? Check all that you've experienced. You can just put in the chat any that you've experienced. But one thing I would say from COVID is that I, along with some of my other fellow youth council members, graduated in our bedrooms, basically. Senior year was from home. And so we got back from spring break, but we didn't get back from because we just stayed at home. And that's when COVID hit, is right when spring break was. And we all finished our classes online. And the one thing that happened with me was that I would do my homework in my bed, and I would listen to my Zoom calls sitting in my bed. And what happened, I developed sciatica. And I don't know if you know what that is, but basically it's when like there's a pain, it's called a sciatic nerve. And so it goes from your lower, like the lower part of your spine all the way down through your hips and your leg. And so I went to the doctor and they said that I hit a sciatic nerve because I was sitting so long. So just sitting on for hours in the day because I was on, I had to sit for school. But so that was definitely a physical strain that COVID put me through. So let's see what people have here. Lily, didn't you say that you got glasses like blue light glasses to shield?
Yes, I got blue light glasses off of Amazon, but I don't know if they actually work. I try to think that they work, but they were like $10. So maybe if I invest a little bit more, I'll see a difference. But I don't know all the data around blue light glasses, but if they actually do help. But I think that is one way to, avoid having strained eyes and maybe dry eyes and blurry vision.
Yeah, and I'm seeing people in here saying all of them. Yes, I agree. All of these have happened. We're running out of time, so the next slide is about nature. Charlie, if you want to take that.
Yes, and we'll go rapid fire so we can try to finish up this training in the last few minutes here. The essential summary for this slide is that getting out in nature is a great way to take care of your physical health, especially in the age of COVID, when we're all sitting at our computers all day long, having bad posture in our chairs, straining our eyes by looking at the screens. So you can take a look at this spread right here and see all sorts of benefits that nature can provide. For example, let's pick some out here. Promoting calm is a good place to start, especially since now in the COVID age, going to classes and going to work online is associating screen use with stress. It's important to find a new environment to be in that can promote a more calm state of mind. That can be a very different departure from where you've been spending your school day. If you just go right from doing school on your computer to watching TV on your computer, that's not a great way to promote calm.
Perfect. And here we are at our last segment, and it's sleep. And we already kind of touched on this a little bit. Cece, you can hit the next slide. Thank you. This is another activity that we have. It's sort of like the one we just did. Basically, you describe your childhood bedtime routine and then your present bedtime routine. And you can put it in the chat if you would like to. I'm going to just say my routine is completely different. I usually don't really have a set consistent routine, but as a kid, it would probably be like playing the piano and hanging out with friends, watch a movie or something, and then I'd go to bed. But now I'm for sure on my phone as I'm going to bed. I can be in bed for maybe 30 minutes on my phone before I actually before I actually put it down and to go to sleep. And so obviously that's the main factor. Like my phone is the main factor that has changed my bedtime routine, and that in itself is kind of scary. So we want to be really mindful of how we are consuming information and at what times and how it's inhibiting our sleep. And Charlie, you were just talking about how sleep is so important to our overall well-being and health. You can hit the next slide, Cece. Thank you. So we just have a couple statistics here. So in the spring of this year, we did a survey for high school students. And when we asked about cell phones while they slept, 78% said they never leave their phone outside the room. 67% say they always keep their phone within reach while they sleep. And 54% say they either always or sometimes check notifications during the night when they should be sleeping. Now, there's one thing that I wanted to share really quick that KK told me the other day. So Jennifer Piercy, she's an integrative sleep and dream educator. And she did a course on the Insight Timer, which is a meditation app. And basically she said that there are 3 necessities for when we go to sleep. We need darkness, we need quietness, and we need cool. And if you get your phone out, our phones emit light, so no darkness there. It emits heat when you're on it, so it's not cool, and it's loud because you're watching TikTok videos or you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook or whatever it is, it's loud. And so all the things that are necessity for most people to go to bed are an exact opposite of what your phone provides for you. So that is just a really eye-opening just thing to think about, and maybe think about that next time when you're on your phone. You're like, nope, I can't do it. I physically cannot go to sleep with this thing in my hand. And then here are just a couple questions for you to take away with you about your sleep. So what is important to you about your sleep, and what infringes on your intentions around sleeping? We talked a lot about how sleep, it's not just something that, you need it to function, but it helps you with your everyday, like your daily lifestyle. It can inhibit, if you don't get enough sleep, it can inhibit your focus and your motivation around things. And so just take away some of the things, maybe think about, why do you want to get good sleep and what inhibits you from that, and take steps towards trying to help yourself get a better rest.
So we would like you guys to take away an intention, and we've replaced intention with goal. Danny, this is based off of you. So when we write down an intention, we think about intention, we're more likely and we hold ourselves more accountable to go through with that. So any of the information we covered tonight on our physical health and well-being, if you could just take the last 30 seconds and write an intention for yourself to focus on in the next week, that could be putting your phone outside of your room when you sleep, whatever comes to mind, just write that down or take a mental note and think about that over the next week.
Thank you, guys. That was amazing. I'm so impressed. I know it's the last session of the day, so we have, and some folks did ask questions. I was pumping them into the chat. I don't know if I know you covered some of them in your talk, but if you want to just, if you feel able to, just take two or three and just give those a quick answer, that'd be great, because I know folks were really excited to hear you and hear what you have to say. And I'm sorry they're not all bundled together, so we kind of have to, let me see if I can find them again. Oh, I actually can find them again. Let me put them in here. So I can read them to you, actually. One is, what are your thoughts about kids having GAB wireless, non-internet phones that look like iPhones? They allow phone, text, camera, radio, clock, etc. That's from Sonia. That's one question.
Yes. So the GAB wireless phones is initially in America only. And what I recommend is it's the best way to help keep kids focused on doing schoolwork. So kids are not glued on a smartphone where you have notifications, where you have persuasive app design, where kids have unnecessary cameras, where they're not going to use it for all those stuff that traps them onto demanding too much smartphone use and social media. And I am saying thank you to Facebook for not making Instagram for young children.
Thanks, Mohammed. I appreciate that. I wonder of the LiveMore, do you guys have any thoughts on that, or do you want me to feed you another question? I think you covered the COVID one. There's a question about what age. Here's one for what age you think kids should get a phone or social media accounts, and full phone, smartphone versus the text. It's a little bit related to the question that was just asked, but it does beg the question about these Instagram and YouTube for kids, all these for kids ones. But what age do you guys think?
I think 14 years old, if a kid is ready for mid-range smartphone, and 16 years old, if a kid is going to work part-time job for a smartphone, and social media should be greater than 13 years of age, not for children under 13, not even Messenger for kids.
Great, thanks, Mohammed. I appreciate that. Do you all, Lily or Charlie or Cece, or not Cece, I won't make you talk. Danielle, any thoughts from you guys, or have you seen it done well with how parents have done that?
I think it really depends on the maturity level. I got my first smartphone when I was 8 years old. I had my first flip phone, like a Nokia, when I was like 5 or 6. And that was because I carpooled home with a different family. So my mom wanted to have contact with me. But I had my first smartphone when I think I was 8 or 9. And in the moment, it seems like it's fine. And I was always like a really mature kid. So I never really felt like I needed it, or I didn't have social media until I was a little bit older. But it really doesn't matter how, like, the age they are at that point when they have those social media and smartphones, because I didn't know the effects it was going to have on me at that point. The issue is that I'm 19 years old now, and I see the issues now. And so as a kid, you're not going to see that. As a parent of a small kid, like, who's in this society where everybody has phones and that's how we function, they're also not going to know. And so that's the thing, that we just need to spread awareness about it, because the kids are probably going to throw a fit. Oh, my friends have a phone, all these things, but it's so detrimental to their health. I can't stress that enough, that I did not realize how it was affecting me until it's affecting me now as a 19-year-old. So it's something that it's an addiction. It is, and it's not something to take lightly at all.
Great. I'm going to just ask one more question. There was one about phones in classrooms. What do you guys think about what the schools should be doing? It was a much more articulate question than that, but I just summed it up to that.
I think schools should most likely not allow smartphones to be used in classrooms, because they're a big time distraction to learning, and they make it very hard for kids to get admission to post-secondary education like never before. And smartphone use in class could lead to less productive time at jobs or anywhere else. So you could leave it to other people to answer.
Charlie, you were nodding your head to what Mohammed was saying. You want to comment on that?
Yes, I can speak a little bit to this. From firsthand experience, it does seem like phones are a very big distraction. And I guess ultimately it can be up to the individual teacher potentially to decide what sort of presence they want smartphones to have in their classroom. Because also in high school, I did see some teachers incorporate smartphones into their classrooms through uses such as Kahoots or other live games or live interactive participation. So I guess it just depends on what the teacher wants. And I think that's also where the digital well-being law comes in with this teach the teacher methodology, where if we make the teachers knowledgeable about how to communicate the risks to digital well-being effectively to the students that they teach, then it can maybe lead the students themselves to make healthier choices about how much they want their phone to potentially distract them in the classroom, rather than just having a teacher say, no phones, full stop, end of story.
Well, I tell you, it's my pet peeve, but I know we could have a whole nother panel on the role of phones in schools. So if anybody wants to join a meetup this week while we're together, I'll create a meetup in my spare time when I get a break from hosting the back end here. But I would love that, to get that conversation started and get you guys helping us, because I know a lot of schools are struggling with it. I want to say thank you to KK and Marie and this amazing team that you guys have built with these inspirational young leaders, and what a great role model and program that other states can learn from, and countries. It's not just in the US. I mean, if you want to, instill change, this is a really tangible, good step that wasn't easy, I'm sure, but that I love the youth-led design of this with the adult ally support. It's a multi-generational movement. And we're grateful for all the work that you guys have been doing. Please come back tomorrow if you've got school, because most of the sessions are tomorrow midday afternoon for the US folks. But Saturday and Sunday are chock full. You'll see a lot of these young speakers on some other panels. Touch base, this platform's great. You can send them a direct message. You don't need to have their email. If you want to, connect, do meetups, it's all there. So enjoy the time to pretend we're in person together. But thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening, morning, or afternoon, wherever you might be, and we'll see you tomorrow.
And I also have some other questions. So my other question to you is that when will you have LookUp.live in-person event?
Hey, Mohammed, I'm going to reach out to you in person about that, because I know it'd be really fun to do something in Canada. Can we do that?
Yes.
All
Can
right,
you have LookUp.live Canada?
Well, maybe. Let's do it.
Yes.